Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. What is going on, Law Nation? Before we get started, if you're thinking about your future and how to go about creating more time and more freedom, take action now and go to attorneybydesign.com, whether you're an attorney or not, and download the Freedom Blueprint. And then let's jump on a call. We talk a lot on this show about real estate and mindset, but real estate isn't the only game in town. Now, you have to be careful not to catch the shiny object syndrome, which I'm definitely guilty of, but there's certainly nothing wrong with exploring other viable investments and ventures. Today, we're talking about another business model that I'm also involved in, and that's e-commerce, and more specifically, Amazon. Now, e-commerce, for those of you that don't know, is simply the sale of products online. Now, I don't know how much news and social media you guys peruse, but there are lots of people making tons of money in this business, including our guests. From selling nootropics at Raves to selling them on Amazon, Shaahin Cheyene has thrived in many different settings as an entrepreneur. He's an award-winning business mogul, Amazon expert, inventor, author, filmmaker, and creator. His career as a serial entrepreneur spans more than 30 years, earning over $1 billion in revenue. More recently, his Amazon products have outpaced sales of Fortune 500 companies on the platform, selling millions of units worldwide. Now, without further ado, let's go.
This is the Passive Income Attorney Podcast, where you'll discover the secrets and strategies of the ultra wealthy on how they build streams of passive income to give them the freedom we all want. Attorney Seth Bradley will help you end the cycle of trading your time for money so you can make money while you sleep. Start living the good life on your own terms. Now, here's your host, Seth Bradley.
Shaahin, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Seth. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Appreciate the time. Well, let's jump right into it. Rewind a little bit, take it back. You have a really interesting backstory that I have heard before, but I would love to hear it straight from your mouth. Tell us where it all started, man.
Yeah. So, we were immigrants, moved here from Iran in the 70s. And, my father was working in pizza shops. We were pretty poor. We were middle class in Iran, and then coming to the United States, we're pretty poor. We moved to what became an affluent part of Los Angeles called Pacific Palisades, but we were still, like the poorer family living there. My dad worked at a dry cleaners. And by the time I was 15, I was looking around me and seeing wealth and, people living in big houses. We were very close to Malibu. And, I hadn't eaten at a restaurant, since I was 15. I mean, these kids had people cooking for them and chefs and drivers and all the stuff. And, we were living a pretty fairly, lower middle class, poor life. And I decided I wanted more out of life. So I left home at 15.
Wow.
And decided to seek my fame and fortune out in the world. And so I had no friends, nowhere to go, and basically just, crashed on couches, slept on the beach, wherever I had to while I was planning my next move. And somewhere along the way, Seth, I got involved in the rave scene, which was a big deal here in Los Angeles. And it was blooming, the EDM electronic music scene at that time in the early 90s. And I was looking at the clubs, and I started to realize that the people who threw the clubs, the promoters, were not making money. They had tens of thousands of people in these underground events and these, raves, which are similar to today's electronic music festivals, only they were more clandestine. They weren't making money. The DJs almost never got paid. It was a meme for DJs to be standing outside waiting for somebody to pay them. So, and the venues almost always got stiffed. So I was thinking, who's getting paid here? So I started looking around. Who do you think were the people who were making money at the raves?
Probably the drug dealers, maybe.
Good. I like the way you think. That's right. So the drug dealers effectively would subsidize it. They would give a little money to the DJs. They would give a little money to the promoters. They would take care of the venue. And I noticed that those guys were making money. Now, the problem was that I realized early on that I would be very bad at crime. Crime was not my thing, and I would do even worse in jail. So I thought to myself, the crime thing isn't for me. I would be terrible at that. I'm way too neurotic. So I thought, okay, but what if there was a way where you could create a legal alternative to the drugs that are out there, something that was all natural, herbal, didn't have any side effects, and we could get it in through this new distribution channel. So what I did was I cooked some stuff up. I went to Chinatown. I met a bunch of different herbalists. I put together some formulas. I went to the library. This was pre-internet, right? We had you had to actually look at a book.
Reading books, man. Crazy thought.
Right? You had to read books and talk to people, human to human interface. And I met some super kind people who helped me out. And I came up with a formulation, and they were these goo-filled pills. They looked kind of weird. You had to eat a bunch of them, but I put them in a nice little baggie so they looked like drugs. And we went to the club, and I approached the first drug dealer, the biggest one I knew, and he had run out of supply. The supply of ecstasy had gone down. I was in the right place at the right time. And I said, hey, why don't you sell this instead? And he's, what are you talking about? Get out of here. And I said, look, what are your options? You can sell nothing, or you can sell illegal stuff and go to jail, or you can try my stuff. So I said, oh, well, he's got no choice tonight. He didn't have any supplies. Like, let me try it. In about an hour, I noticed everybody pointing at me, thumbs up. I was like the life of the party. Some like 15-year-old, kid with like, I had no clue what I was doing. And he came back and he said, dude, can you get me more of that stuff? And I said, absolutely. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what's going on? The next day at the club, came back, he sold out of that. We went from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to tens of thousands of these dealers throughout clubs all over the world. We were all over the world selling it. And then we went mainstream. And before my 18th birthday, I had over 200 employees. I was running Venice Beach. I mean, all of Venice Beach were my employees. I was hiring everybody I could off the streets. It didn't matter who you were. You probably were working for me at that time. And I remember, Seth, the day when the news came in that we had broken $1 billion in revenue. Wow. And the funny story is, I remember, being, at this point I was like, 18 years old. And I remember thinking to myself, fuck, I don't know how much $1 billion is. What is it? 1,000 million? Is it 100 million? Like shit. And there was still no internet. And I was like in a panic. And then, I thought to myself, okay, dumb nut, that you're not, no one's going to ask you that, right? CNN wanted to interview me. Montel Williams wanted to have me on a show. I was doing all kinds of major press. And I realized that they didn't want to know about that. They wanted to know how a teenage, long-haired kid with just high school dropout who was living in the backseat of an abandoned Lincoln Continental just 6 months ago now is running a company that's generating over $1 billion of revenue pre-internet. And that's how it all started.
Dude, that's the craziest story I think I've ever heard, man. So you got into the mainstream? You mean like in stores, or who sold these things?
We were everywhere. So we were back in those days, I'm sure a lot of your viewers and listeners and subscribers are going to be a little bit younger. We had these things called record stores. We had a big one called the Warehouse Record Store where people went to buy records. Well, I had the brilliant idea of let's start selling pills, because people who like music like drugs. Let's start selling in those stores. We were in every Warehouse Record Store. We were in every Urban Outfitters. We were in 7-Elevens. We were, in every major distribution channel, GNC, everywhere. Plus, we still had this network of former drug dealers now making more money selling our product legitimately. And it was spectacular because we were all over the world. We were making millionaires every day. And I was still a teenager with no idea how to run a business.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I tell the story. I've got an upcoming book in July. It's not out yet. July or August, we're releasing, called Billion. how I became king of the throw pill cult. And for any of your listeners that are interested, I'm sure you'll share in the notes. I have a podcast called Billion, How I Became King of the Throw Pill Cult, where I dig more into the story of herbal ecstasy and how it became this, most successful supplement of all time.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. So is it, when I picture this, going into the 7-Eleven, you see like those little baggies of different colored crazy pills, and then it's just like held together by a cardboard logo or branding. Is that what we're talking about right now?
Well, herbal ecstasy was a unique formula. It contained an
Okay.
ingredient called ephedra, which was originally popularized by diet pills. So companies like Herbalife and I'm not sure if Amway sold that stuff, but it was all these companies that sold diet pills realized that this stuff works really well. The problem is it gave some people an elevated heart rate, and some companies used less than legitimate ingredients in their products. We never did. We never had any problems with our product, but eventually the government did clamp down on those ingredients that really, were effective as far as those products went. So, there was a time where I was spending millions of dollars a month. I mean, as an attorney, millions of dollars a month on attorney fees alone, fighting the US government. Not a good idea.
Man, all right. Well, look, I couldn't help but go down that rabbit hole, but let's switch gears a bit. How did you transition from, this nootropic smart drug thing to being an Amazon master?
Yeah, really good question. So at some point I started looking back retrospectively, right? And Seth, I mean, for any of us that, have really been there, have reached those heights of success, we have a tendency to look back and think, dude, am I fucking the one-hit wonder of the world, right? And it's funny, in the 90s, I made a movie with Vanilla Ice, the musician, who, by the way, I believe until recently was the #1 top-selling rap artist of all time, because he broke through. His album Cool as Ice was able to be played on all stations, regardless of if there was a black station or a white station or a Hispanic station. They all played that song. So he sold of a single album 19 million copies. So I had made a film with him in the 1990s, which was really cool. But I remember looking back retrospectively and thinking, this guy's an awesome guy, but he really had that like one hit, right? And there's all these other artists who have these one hits and, that make their whole career, but it's really just that, that one hit. And so I think back to myself, I'm like, dude, like, is that it for me? Am I that guy? And I'm like, what was it? Like, can you replicate that success? And by the way, we're doing better now on Amazon than we ever did with any of the things that I did in the past. And so subsequent to that, I pioneered all the technology for vaporization, digital vaporization. And, that company is public, Vapor Inc., that company was taken public in 2007, I believe. So it was one of the first e-cig vaporizer companies to go public. And it's, still to this day, very successful. But I thought to myself, so what is it that makes you successful? How can you have that kind of success? And I was like, was the product good? Yeah, herbal ecstasy was amazing because of the ingredients at that time. But, there's a lot of great products out there that didn't have that level of meteoric success. So what was it? Can you take a guess?
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, demand?
Close. It comes down to one thing: distribution, right?
Ooh.
So we look at great films, right? You've seen great films, right?
Sure.
And how many shitty films have you seen on Netflix or on Amazon or on, even in the theaters, right? Remember when before COVID, we had theaters, right?
Yeah.
You go in, you were like, dude, I want my fucking 2 hours back. This was absolutely crap. You get stuck in the sunk cost fallacy, right? You're like, fuck, man, I paid, $40. I got the popcorn. Like, I'm stuck watching this crap. How the fuck did this film get in the theaters, right? You start thinking that way. And then you think to yourself, all right, it comes down to one thing: distribution. If you have distribution, ready? You can have a mediocre product. You can have an MVP, minimum viable product, and be able to succeed financially. It happens all day long. And nobody wants to tell you this because it's not sexy. Like Scott Adams, the artist of Dilbert, he's got a bunch of fantastic books. And one of them is Win Bigly. He's got another one, How to Fail at Everything and Still Succeed, How to Almost Fail at Everything and Still Succeed, something like that. And he talks about this. And so rewind back to the end of the day, I realized that really for me, what it was distribution. So if you can have distribution in line and you can think, hey, I'm going to go distribution first, then you can win. And the product becomes secondary. If you have a great product, even better. Yeah. You can accelerate faster. But if you have that distribution in place, you're good. So I started thinking distribution first, which is what I did, right? I tapped into a distribution channel that nobody else had accessed. I created a recreational supplement, which wasn't even a thing. I created this niche and I plugged it into a distribution circle that was a distribution circuit that was only selling one product, illegal drugs. And I said, hey, let's pump something else through this distribution circuit. Yeah. But that distribution was in place. And so from there, we expanded. So the secret to herbal ecstasy and the success of herbal ecstasy, and I talk about this and I have a 9-step path to how you get there in my book. But ultimately, the secret to that was distribution. So now fast forward to 2009, Jeff Bezos makes an announcement. This guy, Jeff Bezos, who wasn't the richest man in the world at the time, was on the path to it, says, hey, you know what? I built this thing called Amazon. You know, we're selling books. We started selling other stuff. It's going pretty well. I'm going to let you guys sell stuff on there. So you, Seth, me, everybody else, we as third-party independent sellers, he's going to open up his doors and let us sell on his platform. Ding, ding, ding. Start to think to myself, distribution, right? We now have access to the same distribution channel as these huge companies, as Johnson & Johnson, as Pfizer, as Glaxo, Procter & Gamble, right? Back in the old days, you used to have to do disruption marketing, as Seth Godin talks about, spend millions of dollars and maybe get into these channels and after 5-10 years, be able to sell against these legacy brands, and you would never do well. Bezos changed everything. That's why he's the richest man in the world. So now, 2009, anybody can sell on these platforms. So what did I do? I had been working on a brain supplement, nootropic supplement, because, dude, as you get older, your brain degrades, right? And I don't know if you have kids. You have kids, Seth?
Not yet.
Okay. So I've got a kid, I'm married, and every day is a little bit of a struggle to keep my mental sharpness as I had when I was in my 20s. So I came up with the supplement. I did all this research, the best freaking brain supplement in the world called Accelerol. So now I'm looking for, how am I going to distribute this? We had a subscription model. I'm like, let me put it up. Bezos is opening up. Let me put it up and see what happens. Expensive supplement, $100, $120 a month. Woke up the next morning to thousands of orders. I did nothing. I posted it on Amazon and I was like, oh, ding, ding. Here comes that bright light bulb. I'm like, this is it. It's all about distribution. Let's go. And so we learned the ins and outs of Amazon. I got to talk to Bezos a couple times, which was fun. And we learned everything there was about Amazon. Then people started coming to us and they said, hey, Shaahin, can you do this for us? We said, sure. And we did it and it was easy and more people came. So we kept raising our prices of our agency until, it got to a manageable area, because everybody wants to make money on Amazon. Everybody wants to learn. And which leads me to, the next thing. Then normal people who weren't these companies came to us and they said, hey, Shaahin, we'd like to do this too. And I'd be like, great. I charge $55,000 a month and I bill out at $1,250 an hour, right? As an attorney, and I hate freaking doing it because I'm selling my hours. It's not my favorite thing. My staff actually is, much better than me at doing the hourly stuff. But, I do it because people want an Amazon expert and it's still fun. We get to pick and choose our clients. But I say, hey, why don't I just give you all our systems and teach you how to do it? And you can do it yourself. You can't use my staff, but I'll coach you along the way. And I did that for a couple of people and they became really successful on Amazon. One of which was my wife. She's created a 7-figure business, going to be an 8-figure business on Amazon while being a part-time mom, or a full-time mom, I should say, and part-time Amazonian now. And so we created a course, and it's our Amazon Mastery program. And, that's what it is. It's a tightly knit group of just under 100 people. Everybody gets together, everybody contributes. And look, I've made my money in my life. I don't need to do a course to be a guru. I don't need to do it to make money, but we do it. And now we're even investing in people's companies. So students that are on our course, yeah, we've got a fund where we invest in their success. I do it because nothing gives me more joy than to see somebody succeed with our formulas. And it gives validation to our systems. So, I know the title of your podcast is Passive Income, and I love that. And that's what we teach people to do. We teach foundational thinking. You got to build out the foundations. You have to have multiple streams of income, which you, of course, as an attorney know. You've got your law practice as one foundation. You've got your real estate holdings. I don't know if you have e-commerce, but you should, right? And then you probably have some money in the market. So you have a really nice foundation. And when people have that foundation, then they can build on top of it. And the biggest opportunity now, especially that real estate has gone through the roof, right? Like prices are just stupid in some places. It just does not make sense. Money's cheap. People are coming into those markets. Maybe it's time to also start building another footing on that foundation of an e-commerce business. And the best business to be in now, and I don't care who you do it for, is Amazon, or who you do it with, or who teaches you how to do it. We have a 1-hour course that's absolutely free. It's everything you need to know, A to Z. And for any of your listeners or subscribers, Seth, I'm happy to offer that for free. It's normally
Awesome.
$200, but I'll give you a code. You could give it to your subscribers and viewers, and it's free, and it's all you need. You don't need to pay anybody to learn how to sell on Amazon. You don't need to pay a penny for that. It's 100% free, A to Z, how to do that. But by building that predictable, passive, recurring revenue, you can rock it. And we've got staff in Indonesia, in South and Central America, in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all working around the clock, utilizing their hours to help grow your Amazon business. So I've got students that are doing 100% passive revenue growth. And they're even now going in and buying up other companies, plugging it into their system, having people overseas run the company. And, they put in 1-2 hours a day, right? There is no truly 100% passive income. I mean,
Sure.
Real estate is probably as close as you get to it, right? Cash flow real estate with a good management company, but you still, of course, have to, there are things you have to do. There is no 4-hour work week. I hate to break this to people, but this as an attorney and as a pro in passive income, that doesn't exist. Anybody that tells you that is probably lying to you. Even the people I know that have written those kinds of books, they work more than 4 hours a week.
Of course, there's always upfront work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of our listeners don't know anything about this Amazon business. They see that there are people making tons of money on this thing. They hear that it's passive, but how do they get started? Like, how does it all work? Like, let's take it back maybe to the basics. I mean, how do you even get started? Especially for someone that's, let's say, an attorney or a doctor, or somebody who wants to build another stream of passive income. I mean, where do they start?
Yeah, I love that. So there's a couple different ways. So way number one is you start an LLC, super easy. And we have resources for that, and states that are great on tax and great on friendly for Amazon specific businesses. And that's all in the 1-hour course that I'll share with them. But you do that, and then you pick a product using an algorithm. We share our algorithm with everybody. You don't follow your hunch. You don't go with products that you love. You go with what's selling. You find what the market needs, and you feed it that. You don't create a better mousetrap and hope that the world will beat its way to your door. That doesn't work anymore. Amazon killed that. So what works is, hey, what's the world need? This guy's selling 2, power adapters for $29. Why don't you give 4 for $19.99? Right? That's one way. Maybe you could offer one with more USB plugs, whatever it is, just an example. But we teach how to go into these markets, select a product. And once you select the product, then, you're ordering that product from China, presumably, or there are products in the US that you can order too. Most supplements are now actually made in the US. and you ship it to Amazon. Amazon pick, packs, and ships it for you. You can have staff overseas that manages every step of the process from A to Z, and we can put all that in place for you. So it's like one and done. It's a fairly low investment in comparison to certainly in comparison to other businesses like restaurants, even coin laundries. The return is much, much higher. And it's just one other channel that you can have. And the amazing thing is, from the day you start an Amazon company, you have built real estate. I think of it all as real estate. So the day you build an Amazon company, you have an asset that has value and that continues to gain value as you plug new products into it. And you can there's different algorithms to pick products. We can teach you how to do that. And we also have a system that's done for you where you can come in. So this is the way to, and buy existing brands. So we have existing brands within our ecostructure that have been incubated. You can kind of think of them as a shell company where those products have been started, they've been launched, they've been incubated, and you can just come in and buy that company with that product, hire a staff overseas to run it, and start turning, passive income daily. Now, it's not get rich quick. You're not going to make money in 30 days or 60 days. I mean, you could. It has happened before. I've had a couple students to do that. But usually you're thinking 6-month, 9-month, 2-year plan. But in that time, you're building this piece of real estate. I've got products that are bringing in $150,000 a month. I've got products that are bringing in, $500,000 a month or $1 million a month. And it's every single month, predictable, recurring revenue systems that never fail. And there's a way to do it where you build it out. You build out a bunch of different niches, right? So maybe you do some in home, you do some in beauty, you do some in wellness, you do some in automotive, you do some in pet. And then you start promoting them, kind of cross the barriers. And there's people that are doing 100 million plus, and there's people that are doing $5,000 to $10,000 a month in recurring revenue. You can be anywhere in that spectrum depending on which tactics you choose to implement.
Gotcha. Now, how passive is it? I mean, once you do all the work up front, you pick your winning products, you put your company together, you get your distribution channels, everything shipped through Amazon, they handle all that kind of stuff. How passive is it once you kind of get that product on the market?
So that depends on you. I've got students who like to be much more hands-on. So my students sometimes like to, invent products and develop stuff and get it on. So they spend, 4-6 hours a day, those students. I've got other people who are doctors, lawyers, who just want to come in, buy a company, have somebody run it, and just collect the check at the end of the day. And those people, maybe they have a once a week or once a month meeting with, initially when you start, it's more, but it's the same with real estate, right? You got to inspect the property, you got to do due diligence. It's the same kind of thing. But, once that's done and underway, you could have a business where you spend an hour or two a week running it, and it just brings in recurring revenue. My wife was a publicist for the United Nations. She worked under Kofi Annan, and she was a very well-known publicist, very established firm in New York, which she still has and operates with her associates. But, when we had a kid, she had no time. And so starting this Amazon business, the great thing is that she gave her that flexibility where if she wants to put more time into it and introduce new products and new niches, she could. If she didn't want to, her staff in South and Central America, India, Pakistan, run it like a coin laundry. And she just sits back and they're like, hey, you're out of inventory. You got to order inventory. Great. She orders inventory. Hey, we've got, a review issue. You need to get more reviews. Great. They handle it. But, it does require some oversight, just like real estate does, right?
Yeah.
Hey, the management company is dropping the ball. Hey, we've got an eviction here. What do you want to do? All the usual stuff. There is no business that is headache free. You know that.
Sure. Yeah, but it does seem like something you can start on the side. I mean, you don't have to quit your job to start an e-commerce store. You can start this on the side with your extra time. And then as you kind of see some momentum going, at that point, maybe you start to step away from whatever it is that you don't want to do anymore and maybe put more time into this e-commerce store and growing it.
Yeah, totally. You can and you should, right? It's just another piece of real estate. Right now you're looking at the market going, oh my God, how am I going to we live in California and, I live in California part-time, at least at the moment. But when you live in California, you kind of realize like, there's no cash flow to be had here. Like you can bank on appreciation, but you buying for appreciation at the height of the market, like that's a hot potato, right? I bought real estate in California for 30 something years. And believe me, when you buy it at the top of the market, it's a hot potato. You might have to sit on it for 10, 15, 20 years, who knows, before you see that appreciation. So when markets are exceedingly high, you look to other markets, right? Which, like you were telling me earlier on that you're doing, you're looking at all these great markets where, you know, you do have some upside, plus you've got that, you know, that cash flow coming in, which is key. And if you ask me, but also you can start saying, hey, let me look at some other areas. Well, you know, is the cost to start an Amazon business more now than before? Nope. Is the cost to bring products into the Amazon ecosphere more now than before? Nope. Are Amazon companies going for less now? Nope. They're going for more than ever. The multiples on Amazon companies building assets. There's people that just flip Amazon companies. So I've got students who come in who just start multiple Amazon brands and then they sell them off for a multiple, you know, a year, 2 years down the line. And that's a great strategy. There's lots of strategies there, but now you're diversifying. So you're also not stressed out about that, right? If the stock market goes down, you're not worried about that. If you're into crypto and trading crypto, well, that can be another pillar for you. But if that goes down, nothing ever affects you. And that's really the key to passive income is diversification. You have to be diversified. And one of those pillars should be a business. And if you ask me, the most passive business outside of real estate is going to be e-commerce.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to diversify. I mean, most of our listeners are probably W-2 workers and they only have one stream of income. It's just active income. And that's, you know, your financial advisor will tell you, oh, that's awesome. You've got a great paying job. You're safe. But that's actually the riskiest position you can be in, is just having one active stream of income where you're trading time for dollars.
That's right. Yeah. Don't sell your hours, man.
All right, man. Before we jump into the Freedom 4, what's one last golden nugget for our listeners?
Well, I think, you know, you guys got to start distribution first, which I think is key. I think you have to build your network of people who you work with, which is one of the things we teach through our course and through our mastermind, which is have other people around you that are above you, that are below you that you can help, and that are at the same level as you, so you can grow together. Super important. Never work in a vacuum. And third, and, you know, final is, you know, none of these things, even real estate, selling on Amazon, none of these things is a toss of the dice and hoping that it lands on the right color, right? That could be the case. Sometimes you buy a property, you bought under market. Oh, you're doing great. Sometimes you launch a product and, you know, it does great. These things are all about tenacity. They're about follow through. But more importantly, what these things are about is being able to make tiny, tiny adjustments until you get it to that sweet spot. So I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and every day I learned so much on those mats through martial arts. You know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grappling art, really teaches that it's about these tiny changes, these little things that you don't see sometimes that adjust to get you in that right position where you can win and submit your opponent. So sometimes the difference is just a few millimeters, and you have to be really tenacious and continue to make those micro changes until you get there. And so I realized yesterday that that's really, you know, the way that business works as well. If you're going to buy property, if you're going to start an Amazon business, that you have to be ready to make those small changes. And it comes back to the three things. And I teach this in my book that's coming out, and we also teach it in the course, is knowledge, courage, action. My friend Wayne taught us that. So knowledge, right? What's the information we need to make the right decisions, right? When you have the knowledge, what happens there? It gives you courage, right? You now can act. We can jump out of the plane because we've been taking the course on how to jump out of a plane for 2 months and practice. And so we've got the knowledge, gives us the courage, and all that leads to action being the third thing. So if you have that, action is the thing that makes everything possible.
Yeah,
gold nugget,
I
right?
love that, man. Yeah, knowledge, courage, action. We always say that. I mean, people kind of get caught up in listening to podcasts, reading books, you know, education, and that is a great first step. That's what you got to do. But then you've got to take action, man. You've got to put it out there. You've got to do whatever it is you've educated yourself on, and then maybe adjust it as you go. But get it going. Take action. Take those first steps. All right, man. Let's jump into the Freedom 4.
It's time for the Freedom 4.
What's the best thing you do to keep your mind and body healthy?
For me, at the moment, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Wim Hof breathing. I guess you can put both of those things in there, but I love Wim Hof's work. Wim Hof he's known as the Iceman, and he teaches these breathing techniques, which I think is fantastic. So I think breathing is the foundation of all mental acuity.
That's great. That's great. What's one life hack or piece of technology you use to be your most productive self?
Oh, I love this. So I have no affiliation with this company, but they're called Trip. And Trip is fantastic. And especially if you take it with Accelerol or Focus Plus, or Accelerol Focus Plus, which is our nootropic. So I take Accelerol nootropic, or I'll have some matcha tea. Like we make this tea called Matcha DNA, which is fantastic. Okay. So you'll have a cup of matcha tea, and then you put on this VR headset. Dude, this thing is game changing. Have you tried Trip on Oculus before?
No.
Oh my God. I'm a lifelong meditator. It takes me 21 minutes to get into a flow state. Okay. With this thing, 8 minutes, I'm in a flow state. Mind blowing. So check out Trip. You need an Oculus headset, but I think it's like $9. It's unbelievable.
That's wild, dude. I'll have to try that out. All right, man. What's one actionable step our listeners can do right now to start creating more freedom for themselves?
Start an Amazon business. It's easy. Get the free 1-hour course. And that's everything you need, A to Z, to start an Amazon business and launch your product in your company. It can cost you very little to do that, and you'll have that foundation set. So you could reach out to us, ShaahinCheyene.com. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes for you guys who are on there. Just, you can go to ShaahinCheyene.com, or check out my podcast, Hack and Grow Rich. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And I answer all emails directly. So it might take me a minute to get back to you, but if anybody wants to reach out, I'm always happy to help people and try to empower people to create those predictable, recurring revenue streams like you're teaching.
I love it, man. One last question. How has passive income made your life better?
Lifestyle. It's about lifestyle. It gives me more time with my family, which is what it's all about. There's nothing more important than family first. And, look, I always say success comes down to this: being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. And that's the ultimate freedom. Money is like, okay, great. You got money. You can do this, you can do that. But it's not the money. It's the freedom that money gives you. It's being able to cancel everything on your calendar and still be good. It's not being beholden to anybody for your hours. And so when it comes down to freedom, which is what we talk about, that's what passive income is about. It's not passive because we're lazy as fuck. Although, as I'm getting older, I'm more and more lazier, and I'm finding efficiencies there. But what it's about is freedom. That's ultimately what it is. And so the greatest wealth that you can have is freedom. Is the new luxury.
That's right, man. Money's just a tool. Money is a tool to buy yourself time. All right, Shaahin, I appreciate you coming on today. Been spectacular. Awesome, man.
Thank you so much, Seth. Great work. I'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, brother. All right. What a show. Shaahin has already lived 1,000 lifetimes worth of adventures. Certainly the definition of a serial entrepreneur. I had a great time in that interview. Major key, e-commerce is not only here in the present to stay, but it's set up for massive future growth. These are the kinds of investments we love to talk about on this show, and I love to share with you guys. Real estate, blockchain technology, e-commerce, these are things that will stand the test of time. Creating a passive income stream through Amazon is not easy, but it can be somewhat less expensive to get into than, let's say, commercial real estate. There's definitely a learning curve, just like anything else. And there's certainly a time commitment, not only to education, but also to setting up your store, sourcing your products, getting your products live, and marketing them. And again, the key is to build multiple streams of income. The average millionaire has 7. Let's start there and grow. If you're feeling inspired today, reach out to me. Let's jump on a call, talk about your goals, and let's start building some alternative passive income streams together. I'll drop my call scheduling link in the show notes. And until next time, kiddos, Enjoy the journey.
Thank you for listening to the Passive Income Attorney Podcast with Seth Bradley. Do you want more ideas on how to generate multiple streams of passive income? Then jump over to passiveincomeattorney.com for show notes and resources. Then apply for the private Facebook community by searching for the Passive Income Attorney on Facebook. And we'll see you on the next episode.